Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. I'm writing this response very late, so forgive me for being vague. I really liked how this movie went to the effort of giving us a near first-person perspective of serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, reminding us that he was not a monster, but actually a human being, and explaining why he's going around murdering people is quite creepy. Henry simply killed for many reasons, whether it be for material gain or for the sake of enjoying it, and it really is disturbing. I also enjoyed how the movie examined Henry's friendship with Otis Toole. I wasn't actually aware that those two were accomplices for a little while. The movie is sadly held back a little bit by budgetary restrictions though. This is pretty good if you're interested in the serial killer genre. I give Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer an 8 out of 10. Summer of Sam. This is a Spike Lee film based around the Son of Sam murders of the late 1970s, and it was overall a very good movie, but not perfect. Instead of being a straight-up serial killer movie, the Son of Sam actually isn't in the movie all that much. The film focuses on a group of people living in the Bronx who become more untrustworthy of each other in the wake of the murders, but we also get to see the drama unfold in the personal lives of these characters, most notably Vinny and Richie. In that regard, it's certainly a very interesting way of telling the Son of Sam story. One of my friends said something about the movie that got me thinking. He said he felt it was a lot like a Scorsese movie, and I can see where he's coming from. It's got that kind of feel, and the New York setting and its rough depiction emphasizes this. The actors all do wonderful jobs, notably Adrian Brody as the punk rocker Richie. One aspect of the movie I disliked was the gratuitous sex scenes. There are just so many in this movie that it's not funny, and it makes you wonder why they're even there. Overall, it's quite a good movie, but definitely not your average serial killer movie. I give Summer of Sam a 7.5 out of 10. A View to a Kill. Roger Moore's final James Bond movie is, to say the least, not perfect, but still quite good. Like always, Roger Moore delivered a very strong performance as the British agent, however he was certainly far too old for the role by this point. The jokes of the movie I am mixed about. While some of them are pretty funny, others just completely fail and partially contribute to the film's cheesy dialogue every now and then. The action scenes of the movie are great. A few of my favourites are the San Francisco road scenes and the blimp scene that was beautifully shot by the Golden Gate Bridge. It's not the most compelling James Bond story, but it is a very different one, and I like that. Christopher Walken plays the villain, Zoran. He's a very intimidating character with a fairly unique backstory that I wish was explored a bit more. I also really like the ending. This isn't by any means one of the best James Bond movies. It's not even one of Roger Moore's best, but it is still a really good movie. I much prefer it to the previous film, Octopussy. I'd give A View to a Kill a 7 out of 10. The Living Daylights. This is the first of the two Timothy Dalton James Bond movies. What do I think of it? It was great. I really loved the fact that this one brought Bond back to a more mature level after Roger Moore's reign turned the franchise into something family-friendly and much too comedic. The story is very mature, placing James Bond in a Cold War context when it was at one of its highest peaks ever. Dropping James Bond in the middle of Afghanistan to fight the Soviets was surprising, and I thought that it was a very good idea and very different for the series. Timothy Dalton is a terrific James Bond. I felt that he made the character appear much more intimidating and at the same time realistic. The action scenes of the movie are very well done, and one of the main factors that make me think of this as an epic Bond movie. I think that this one is inferior to almost all the Connery movies, and it's superior to almost all the Roger Moore films. It's not quite one of the best James Bond movies ever made, but it was one of the best that I had seen in quite a while. I give The Living Daylights an 8 out of 10. License to Kill. This is Dalton's second James Bond movie. I did like this overall, but I preferred The Living Daylights, and I felt that this film could have been better quite easily. The revenge story is likable, but I don't think that they fleshed it out well enough. It could have added a new dimension to the series and soared to great dramatic heights, but it simply didn't take advantage of that opportunity. The first and third act are both totally brilliant and really thrilled me, but then there's the second act. It feels very uneven. At times it's a lot of fun, and then at other times it's a little bit slow. Timothy Dalton delivered a very strong performance in this one, too. I'm not quite sure if I prefer Dalton to Roger Moore as Bond, though. Although he played the character in a more suitable manner, and his movies were generally better than Moore's, I believe that's more the outcome of writing, and Roger Moore just had a charm I really liked, and I did miss it a little bit throughout both of Dalton's movies. Still, nothing against this movie at all. I like it quite a bit, but I don't think it's one of the best Bonds ever made. I give License to Kill a 7.5 out of 10. Ernest Scared Stupid. It's taken me a while to see this Ernest flick. It was the last of the films to be released in theaters, and I can see why. I didn't dislike the movie, but it definitely left me wishing for more, and bear in mind that's by the standards of the Ernest movies. Jim Varney, as always, is a lot of fun as the title character. He's not a great actor by traditional standards, but hell, he really does grasp the audience with his goofiness, charisma, and great embodiment of the character he was born to play. The rest of the actors of the movie are pretty bad, but I will mention Eartha Kitt specifically, who plays this crazy old woman. She's so over the top and ridiculous in the role that it's hard not to like her. The villain in the movie is a troll, a very generic villain, but I guess it's suited to these movies. I also have to say I love Miak. That's going to be on my mind for quite a while. The first hour of the movie is pretty fun, but it slows down quite a bit by the end and just leaves you wanting this already short movie to wrap itself up faster. Of the 4 Ernest movies I've watched, this is definitely my least favourite, but I don't dislike it. I'd give Ernest Scared Stupid a 6.5 out of 10. Freedom Riders. As a fan of Hilary Swank, I'm surprised it took me a while to see this one, considering my school played clips of it in some of my classes. This is based on the true story of a teacher who starts working in a low socioeconomic, racially divided area who begins to teach her students about tolerance and high achievement. I really like how this school is set in an area dominated by gangland. As a person who grew up in a wealthy, middle-class area, I found this difference in education to be very intriguing. The racial themes are, of course, the main focus of the movie. I find it hard to comprehend how a school could become so racially divided to this degree. What, of course, is more compelling is the effort that Miss Gruelle undertakes in order to straighten these kids out. Hilary Swank delivers an excellent performance in her role, and I also thought that April Hernandez gave a very strong performance, and of course I'm not disregarding the rest of the cast either. For a movie about race, it certainly doesn't come off as preachy. It just simply emphasizes how bad things can get over such a trivial thing. Point is, racism is wrong, and racists are idiots, and people should place more value on education. A great movie, I thought. I give Freedom Riders a 9 out of 10. Minority Report. Many say that this is one of the best science fiction films of the 21st century, and what can I say? It is. It really is. The film is set in a future where technology exists to predict and arrest criminals before they commit crimes, and the main character, played by Tom Cruise, is wrongly accused of a future crime and sets out to prove his innocence. Not only is this idea terrific, but the premise alone provides the opportunity to tell a really compelling and suspenseful story in true Hitchcock-like fashion. It's one of the cool things about the film. The visuals are all awesome, but don't get in the way of the story, which is what I like. Tom Cruise plays John Anderton. His performance is excellent, and I really like the way the character is written as a man with a very tortured past who wants to prevent the horrible things that have happened to him happen to someone else. He stands for justice, and I admire that. I also liked the rest of the cast too, but nobody particularly stood out to me, if I recall correctly. It's also among the best of Spielberg's more recent movies. I like this a lot more than War Horse, Saving Private Ryan, and The Adventures of Tintin. Minority Report is an excellent science fiction thriller that I recommend very highly. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. American Reunion. I've been waiting for a 4th true American Pie movie ever since I became a fan of the original 3 films back in high school. And this one was pretty much everything I hoped it to be. It brings back pretty much all the major characters from the previous films, even if some of them only appear for a minute or so. But when it comes to all these minor characters, it doesn't matter all that much. I'm sure everybody was just keen to see Jim, Kevin, Oz, Finch, and Stifler again. How's the humour? Wonderful, just like the other three films. However, there were a couple of fart jokes that I just thought were in really bad taste. All the returning actors have done wonderful jobs, as you'd expect. One of the major themes of the movie is the aging of these people. Being introduced to them as high school kids and now seeing them change into working adults was actually really exciting for me. Although I haven't reached that age yet and I couldn't properly relate to it, I'm certain that plenty of fans who were in high school when the original came out could. What else can I say? It's a great comedy, and as a huge American Pie fan, I was really happy to see this movie released. I'd give American Reunion an 8.5 out of 10. RoboCop. Now, I've known about this film for years, but it's taken me so long to getting around to watching it. With all the films out there I want to see, I didn't feel compelled to prioritize this one. One of my friends told me about this movie and said that it was a classic film, and he was right on all accounts. This movie is friggin' awesome. Basically, it's about this cop who's terminally wounded in the line of duty, who's given a second chance at life and returns as the cyborg police officer, RoboCop. However, he finds himself haunted by his past and the target of some very violent criminals. Perhaps the most apparent thing about this movie is the violence. I really underestimated how intense it was going to be. I'd certainly label this as one of the best shoot-'em-up movies out there, and the gore is just sweet. Peter Weller plays RoboCop, and he delivers a really good performance. However, I do feel that the part could be played by pretty much any good actor. I also really like Nancy Allen as Officer Lewis, and it's hard not to like Kurtwood Smith as the villain. Another factor of the movie I really like is the undertone of corporate corruption. That really needs to be seen more. The dystopian future Detroit that the film takes place in is also brought to life very well, being futuristic but not seeming too different from the present, which was the 1980s at the time. Overall, it's just a badass movie, and if you're looking for a hell of a fun time, you can't go wrong with RoboCop. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Anyways guys, thanks for watching my video, hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.